Back for another edition of In the Huddle. Carl Dukes put them up along with Jason Lock-on-4, Brian Baldinger. Guys, we invite you to like us and watch on YouTube In the Huddle Pod. Tell your friends, don't miss an episode. We talk nothing but the NFL. It is all about ball. And we got a few things we got to discuss, guys, heading into, I think, probably one of the biggest weeks when you start talking about the matchups in the league and what these matchups could mean. We're going to get to those. Let's start, though, with what happened yesterday with the Bears. And I just want to know where you guys are on this because I'm looking at the Bears. They got a lot of issues, Baldy. They got a lot of things that are wrong. But firing Shane Waldron seemed to me as if Matt Eberflus is going, oh, what can I do? I'm trying to change things. Does this really change anything for the Bears?
Not really. I mean, look, they got rid of Luke Getsy last year. They got rid of Shane Waldron. I mean, there's a lot of culprits here in the mess that we've watched now, starting in Washington, then Arizona, then last week against the Patriots, where, I mean, literally, it was awful. And it was in Chicago. You're at Soldier Field. You're putting that display on. Something has to change because the attitude stinks. And you can see it in the players. Walking on the field, off the field, another incompletion, another third down miss. They're 1 of 14 on third downs. And a lot of make-will. And the offense never really made sense to me. There was a little stretch where it looked like it was improving and the quarterback was improving. And then it went back. On 3rd and 6, I don't know why they run 20-yard go routes, one-on-one. It makes no sense. I compare it to what Cliff is doing with Jaden, in Washington, and I look at what Chicago's doing. Coaching matters. And is Shane Waldron, is he the only reason? No. I mean, the receivers aren't getting open. The quarterback is missing open receivers. Some receivers look like they're not making any effort to get to the ball. We've all seen that. And so, like when you see the attitude like that, somebody's got to be the fall guy. So you go to offense coordinator, elevate the new guy. It worked in Buffalo last year. Joe Brady came in. That offense is humming. It was humming when he took over. It turned the season around for him. It was a good change. It doesn't always work, but you got to do something. You can't let the season just go away like it has over the last 3 weeks where the offense literally is a problem, and it's not helping anything on defense.
I think we also, though, can't ignore the elephant in the room, which is this is a game of optics, PR, 3-card Monty. The fact that the whole defense is calling out, like Eberflus' side of the ball, right? He's been called out publicly by his players on his side of the ball since he had no clue how to defend not just the Hail Mary, but the 2 plays prior to the Hail Mary, right? So that's been going on. The defense has, I don't know if quit's a strong word, but let's just say from the point they got Montez Sweat up until the Hail Mary, that defense was playing at one level. It's playing at a different level since. And it's bled into 3 games now, right? So, don't talk about that, Chicagoland. Let's not focus on the fact that Eberflus has lost his side of the ball. This guy who we never should have hired in the first place, we're going to throw him to the wolves because the last 3 weeks, the quarterback is completing 50% of his passes for 4.9 yards per attempt with a QB rating of 64.7, worst in the NFL. But, let's be real, right? Eberflus, this is deck chairs on the Titanic. Matt Eberflus is not – Kevin Warren is not running it back next year with Matt Eberflus. That's not happening. I'm a little surprised Kevin Warren ran it back with those guys in the first place, knowing he had the 1-1 and could have got a lot of coaches excited about coaching Caleb Williams, right? Before you tarnish him, before he gets sacked 18 times the last 3 games, right? Before he starts to become, hey, wait a minute, is he already on a slide? You could have nipped all that in the bud and got your real staff instead of your starter staff last year. They didn't do that. Maybe they're cheap. A lot of people would say those owners are cheap. I'll say it. The owners are cheap. But that's a disaster. That's a disaster. And right now, Drake May and Bo Nix, take Jake Daniels out of it. Those 2 look to be performing at a higher level than Caleb Williams.
Well, I mean, even Drake May completely outplayed Caleb Williams on the field.
That's what I'm saying.
And look, I mean, you can say what you want about the New England Patriots. Drake May is 2-3 as a starter.
Yeah.
He's helping them. He's helping them win games.
Yes, he is.
Bears have scored 27 points in their last 3 games. You could point to that and say that's why this change was made.
One offensive touchdown. One offensive touchdown.
Sometimes when you take the backup guard and you put him at fullback and you try to give him the ball on the goal line, Like maybe that's not a good play.
Thomas Brown's going to call plays for the Bears. It's in the huddle, guys. That is got to resolve itself, and it certainly will. It's a shame that we're seeing what we're seeing with Caleb Williams. You're right about the development of other quarterbacks around the league. Guys, I want to just have a general conversation here before we get into this week's big matchups, and that is we're at a point now where you can really feel like some teams are real Super Bowl contenders, right? Mm-hmm. But I want to talk about real quick a team that I had no idea that I didn't think they would look the way they look, and that is the Cardinals. Guys, Kyler Murray had 17 completions in a row before he was taken out of the game last week. We know how good he looked. And, Jason, it's kind of been an anomaly, right? We've been talking about the Cardinals, but they beat the hell out of the Jets, 31-6. It wasn't even close. No. Aaron was running for his life, and Kyler Murray was just chopping them up. And my thing is this a dangerous team we're watching and maybe not giving them enough credit?
Go ahead, Baldy.
Let me jump on his first card. It's great. It's a great observation. Jonathan Gannon's the head coach. I got to know Jonathan quite well when he was in Philadelphia. And he does he's a great team builder. He brought in Nick Raylis with him, the youngest coordinator in the league. He's 31. He was coaching linebackers when he was 28. He's got a lot of respect. Last year, you look at the record, it wasn't good. But they beat the Cowboys. They went to Pittsburgh. They beat Pittsburgh. They went to Philly. They beat Philly. And in those games, James Conner ran the ball great. They drafted Paris Johnson to be, an elite player. He is. Right tackle. He hasn't ever missed a play yet in 2 years. He's played every snap. Mm-hmm. They got glue guys. Budda Baker is playing at an extremely high level. He brought Kazir White from Philadelphia with him. He brought some of his guys. And Kyler has bought into the whole culture. Like, he's a leader now. He's not this kid that people thought he's just playing video games. He doesn't. Like, he's a leader. And his play is exemplary. This team can be real dangerous because there's games this year where Marvin Harrison is invisible. Yeah, he's got 6 touchdown catches. Like, he's still – and if they start – and you have to look at Trey McBride as an elite player, like an elite athlete. He's a great blocker. He's a really – nobody knows because he plays in Arizona. We don't cover them. But he's an elite player. Outside of a couple other tight ends in this league, you take them over everybody. So they've got pieces. They can run the ball. They had 12 draft picks. And all of a sudden, Trey Benson, Dadrian Taylor Demerson, like all these kids are showing up on the field. Yep. And, you go James Conner at 225 pounds to Trey Benson at 230 pounds. They pound you up front. They pounded the Jets. And then Kyler didn't miss. He didn't miss. And a lot of it is design and his experience. And it used to be, we got to keep Kyler in the pocket. Well, that's how you beat him. Well, he's winning from the pocket right now. He's improved. So that's what you're looking for in all these teams, Carl. Now, it's showing up in the record because they've beaten the 49ers. They've beaten the Rams. They took the Bears apart.
Beat the Chargers.
Took the Jets apart. They're beating teams that on paper have more talent than they do. But they ran a kickoff back for a touchdown against Buffalo. They don't beat themselves. And it's really coaching matters and then having the right guys that believe in what the coach's vision is. That's what they got going on. They're a dangerous team.
Yeah. Jason, and Kyler Murray again, I mean, there was a play in this game just Sunday last week against the Jets. He takes off for a first down. We know he can run. And he picks up probably 15 yards, Baldy and Jason, and then he slides. Stays in back, just slides, right? That just makes the right play. I'm not trying to do too much. I'm not trying to go 60 yards, right? And I'm like, this kid is getting it. Like, I'm going to get the first down. We're going to keep the chains moving. We're already up. I'm going to keep driving. And I just said to myself, this kid he's getting it to where we thought he might be in this league, Jason.
No, he's matured. He's grown. I think he's really comfortable in his own skin at this point in time. It's less of a veteran team than it used to be. I think that probably suits him a little bit, lets him be a little bit more of a leader. They've played 10 weeks. They're going into their bye. They've had one stinker. Like, I didn't think they showed up for that Commanders game. Like, I didn't like what I saw to them in that game. But everything else, like, they lose one-score game at Buffalo, first game of the year. They had the lead. They blow out the Rams.
Yeah.
They barely lose to the Lions. Stinker against Washington. Beat the 49ers. Okay, they lost at Lambeau. Like, that's probably going to, like, okay, that's going to happen.
It's a competitive game.
And then they haven't lost since. Beat the Chargers, didn't let them score a touchdown. Beat Miami, came back on Miami. Blow out the Bears, blow out the Jets. Guys, they come out of the bye. They play Seattle twice in 3 weeks. Like, that could be the division. They've got 4 division games left in their final 7. Nobody talked about their schedule. We all talked about Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh doesn't play any division games until, around Thanksgiving. Well, it's the same thing for the Cardinals. And, yeah, they are an interesting football team. I like the way the schedule sets up for them. I got to give them a lot of credit for these guys believing.
We can dump on the Jets if we want. It's easy. They acted like they never seen a quarterback keeper last week. Like, honestly, like I'm just going. This is Kyler Murray. He's been running this play since he was a freshman in Allen High School. The same play everywhere he's been. The Jets look like they'd never seen it. Like they never saw that play before. I was just laughing. I go, this is Kyler Murray. It's on tape almost every week, and you don't have it. Yeah,
guys. And that's just a team again. We'll keep an eye out on. Everybody knows about the Chiefs. Just real quick, they're living dangerously, right? I mean, they're just finding ways to get it done. Do I think that they have a shot to three-peat? Yes. Who wouldn't, right? I mean, come on. You get in these playoff games, everything looks like now is still going to go through Kansas City. Jason, I mean, and this week we'll talk about it, Kansas City and Buffalo. But just as we talk about these storylines where we're at and teams that look the part, they're still undefeated, but it still doesn't feel right.
I mean, but Baldy, like the fact that Dave Toub knew that the left side of their field goal units, right, was leaky. That's not a surprise. The fact that they saw an area they could exploit and they got a really athletic linebacker in position to do that. Like, I'm not chalking that up to dumb luck. I'm not chalking that up to the football gods or Andy Reid's got a horseshoe up his ass. Their special teams, Dave Toub should be coaching somebody. How many shitty head coaches have been hired the last 6 years and Dave Toub can't get interviews? Like, nobody wants Andy Reid's staff. Okay, he'll keep them and he'll win the goddamn Super Bowl every year. Like, So that's not, I mean, like, I can't say that's a fluke. Like, I guarantee you they worked on it all freaking week. And, like, they don't beat themselves. And are they lucky? Sure. I think they also make a lot of their own luck. And, like, division games are supposed to be tough. Denver's defense is really good. And Denver got emasculated in the second half. In the first half, they did the job. Got emasculated in the third quarter by the Ravens. Like, you didn't think they were going to be ready to play? Like, I looked at that line. We talked about 9.5 the middle of the week. Are you out of your freaking minds? Now it got down to 7.5. But, like, that was a tricky spot. They got this national game with the Bills hanging over them. And they took care of business. They won the game. How many points did they give up? Like,
honestly, like, they're making all these plays, okay, to your point, Jason. I mean, Leo Chenal is a beast. I mean, nobody plays 3 linebackers on the field more than the Kansas City Chiefs do. And they just figured out Tranquil and Bolton and Chenal how to do it because Bag's like, they're too good for one of them to be on the sideline.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's times when I watch the Chiefs and they look a little bored.
Yeah.
But they're winning. But they'll lose to Cincinnati in the regular season. They'll lose to Buffalo in the regular season at home. They've done it. You get to the postseason, and then they just know how to play the postseason. I almost feel like this whole thing right now is like they know they're going to be playing at home in January. And I'm not saying that they don't go out to practice with the purpose every day and they're driven and Andy's got – like they play a little like it's just a little boring right now, guys. We're here to win championships. Yeah. And whether they win in Buffalo or not, it's not really going to make – it's almost probably a good thing just to stop with the undefeated thing and all that talk about it because it really doesn't matter to them. All that matters is you win 3 games in January and play in February.
Yeah, it's a great point, Baldy. And it's as we talk about one other team, and then we'll get to this week's matchups. It's In the Huddle. Subscribe, like us, guys. Tell your friends. Don't miss an episode. Follow Baldy's breakdowns, Jason as well, and myself as we stay up on everything that's going on in the league. The Lions, right? Your quarterback throws 5 interceptions, and you still find a way to win. This team is good. Now, we've been saying that, but it's adverse situations like the one they had to overcome against the Houston Texans the other night, where you go, when you can win those games, Baldy and Jason, your team's pretty damn good and resilient. And whatever Dan Campbell has built there, it's showing through, right? You see it through the play.
Well, a couple things. One, yes, there are 5 interceptions on paper. One was a Hail Mary.
Yeah.
One was, a bubble screen where Jalen Petrie jumped up and batted it. It happens every Sunday to a team. Daniil Hunter hits his arm, and the ball pops up. The defense line intercepts it. So he threw really 2. But then Carlton Davis, in the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, takes 2 from C.J. Stroud, and they give him great field position. And then you look at him now, and I don't know where Ben Johnson comes up with these ideas. They're not quirky. They're not like from left field. They just, when he runs some of these plays, like you go, nobody else has this play. I know. I've just watched every game. I don't see this. Like he comes up with these concepts that constantly keep you off guard. The offense line is really good. Both backs are great. Jahmyr Gibbs would get 300 touches on every other team in this league.
Yeah.
Except Detroit, where they're going to balance it up with him and David Montgomery, who also is a starter and a closer. So Jameson Williams is back. But then defensively, you look at Brian Branch and you look at Kirby Joseph and you look at what Carlton Davis is doing. Like, they're playmakers everywhere. And so it might not be the elite pass rush that you're going to get with Aiden Hutchinson, but they still come after you in different ways. Like they are a resilient, tough, well-coached football team.
Yeah. They're driven, man. And look, no one's going to play 4 quarters every week. It's impossible in this league. There's too much parity. There's too much travel. It's just, playing games in foreign countries. Like, there's just too much shit. But when they're down, like, they rally. Like, I look at them. I look at Pittsburgh. Who wins the second half? Like, who overcomes adversity? When our game plan wasn't right, who can go to plan B, plan C, plan D, and win games in different ways? And who needs a certain template? Who's a front runner? Who needs everything just right every week, and then we can come out on top? But, like, who can tear it all up at halftime and say, all right, I'm going to light a fire under their ass, and we're going to do it differently, and we're still going to win this ball game? And that's the Detroit Lions. I mean, that is the Detroit Lions, man. Like, they could beat you with the quarterback throwing 55 times, and they could beat you with the quarterback throwing 10 times. Mm-hmm. Like, and they could do it at home, and they could do it on the road. And guess what? They don't need to be in a dome to do it either. We just saw them go to Green Bay and out-Packer the Packers. Yep. So I do still wish they got an edge rusher. I'm not going to lie. I wish they got you Davion Clowney or even a Calais. You got Ian Zadarius Smith and Calais Campbell. Now we got okay. So we don't love everything we have on the edge, but we got the greatest interior rotation we could possibly have, right? Because what happened in that game? They had a D tackle go down. Hopefully it's not for long. But
Calais is still playing at a high level. I mean,
especially if you keep his reps down. I mean, especially if you keep him to 15 reps a game.
60% of the snaps in Miami, he's dominant. He's playing better than he has in any place in the last 5 years.
It's crazy. All right, let's look ahead to these games, guys, because there's 4 that I have that I think
it's unreal. It looks like playoff football, Carl.
Yes.
This looks like a slate of playoff football games.
Totally agree. So we've got Ravens at Steelers, right? Division game. And that game between the Steelers and Commanders was incredible last week, guys. You guys know. I mean, we were all like, holy crap. But my question, Jason, and I'm starting with you because of the Ravens here, and I want to know if you think the Steelers, and more importantly, Russ, can take advantage of that secondary. They're leaky. They've been exposed. You've talked about it. If you're the Steelers, aren't you going into this game saying that's where we can take advantage of them? We don't need Lamar to get out up on us, and then we're trying to play catch up. Let's do what we need to do to take care of that secondary.
Did you watch the second half of the Raiders game?
I did.
Gardner Minshew got off on them. Did you watch the first half of the Broncos game at home? These games are at home. Did you watch the first half of the Broncos game? Bo Nix got off on him, and he was 2 missed throws away from really getting off on him. Like, everybody's gotten off on him. Of course Russ can get off on him. Like, I mean, they don't have a free safety. They've got one inside linebacker, not two, and the one they have is playing more like a $5 million guy than a $20 million guy. They don't have anybody on the edge.
You might want to put that guy on the scale and just weigh him.
Bro, he ain't the same guy. Roquan Smith ate Roquan Smith.
He looks a little heavy to me.
Roquan Smith ate Roquan Smith.
No.
And Patrick Queen left. Patrick Queen's on the other sidelines, and this is Patrick Queen's Super Bowl. Patrick Queen is outplaying Roquan Smith this year, and it's not even close. And that's me telling you Patrick Queen sucked in September while I was still trying to figure out what was being asked of him. But, like, Patrick Queen and that number one defense right now, he's a factor. Roquan Smith is a factor. He's a factor for the other team putting up 30 points a game. Like, so yeah, like, imagine you're Mike Tomlin in that building, and now you're 3.5 point underdogs at home to a team you've owned, to a quarterback you've owned. You want to talk about disrespect. And Mike Tomlin, as a home dog in his career, guys, 18-6-3 against the spread as a home dog, 17-10 straight up. Since 2017, Mike Tomlin has been a home dog 16 times. He is 12-3-1 against the spread and 11-5 straight up. Let this hit 4. Put a small pile on Pittsburgh money line and put a nice pile on those 4 points. Well, because I think Pittsburgh's winning this game, Baldy. Their special teams are superior. Their defense is superior. And I think Lamar Jackson can get his 27. I think Russ can get his 28 or 30.
Well, I'm going to be there Sunday. I'm looking forward to being at this game. I tell everybody that's a football fan, if you really want to enjoy a football game, go on the sidelines for a Ravens-Steelers game and just listen to it. Just listen to the violence of the hits between these two teams. It's played at a different level. Now, that being said, I can guarantee you Mike Tomlin's going to have Deshaun Elliott and Patrick Queen at his captains. Like, they're going to march those two guys out midfield to call the coin toss. Guarantee it. Like, these are two guys drafted by the Ravens. They're now a Steeler. They traded in, play like a Raven. And Deshaun Elliott, by the way, is having
a hell of a year.
He leads the team in tackles. It's just amazing. Omar Khan, Andy Weidel, they go out and they get Preston Smith. He gets a sack, tackle for loss. They go out and get Mike Williams. He wins the game for him. He couldn't catch a pass with the Jets.
No.
He comes to Pittsburgh. He's there 4 days. He catches the game winner. Like, how does he feel in that team culture of the Steelers right now after what he just experienced in New York, where, like, he wins the game? Like, the game ball's in his hand. He's there for 4 days.
And Baldy, that throw was perfect.
Perfect.
Like the throw from Russ over the shoulder and his concentration to haul it in. I mean, that you're absolutely right. And here's the other thing about Mike Williams. I was talking to somebody in the organization, and I said when they made the trade, can he help? Because he didn't do crap with the Jets. And so I'm like, can he really help? And the sentiment was, yeah, he's big, he's physical, he can help in the run game, blocking, and he can make those kinds of catches we saw Sunday. This team is peaking, to your point, Jason, at the right time. I'm with you on this. I like the Steelers. I'm shocked they're a dog with where they are and how this is escalating for them. And guys, let me say this. Wouldn't surprise me if they win this division.
Oh, no.
Wouldn't surprise me if they win this division.
No, I mean,
like everybody's talking about the Ravens. I'm like, wait a minute. Look at the Steelers.
Pittsburgh's got a plus 80 point differential in the second half. It's best in the NFL. Pittsburgh's number one, or top 5 in time of possession. They're holding the ball over 32 minutes. And they're top 3 in the league in turnover ratio.
Well,
they've got a better point differential than the Ravens and a better record, and they're 4-point underdogs at home. All right.
Well, look, I mean, we have to talk about how well Russell is playing. And the decision Mike Tomlin made a month ago, it was very questioned around the country. Yeah. If this is the right move, Justin's winning games. He's not losing you games. But Mike Tomlin knew that when you get to games like this on Sunday, and to the postseason, you got to be able to throw the ball. The Ravens found that last year when they they lost to Kansas City. You got to be able to throw it. And you need a quarterback that can make those type of throws, the type of throw to Mike Williams. Like George Pickens has come alive. He had no touchdown catches with Justin Fields. I'm not knocking Justin. He's got his strengths. But George Pickens right now he's an acrobat out there. But now you get Cordell Patterson back. Yep. You get Jalen Warren back.
Yep.
Najee's playing good. And nobody talks about it, but they got a rookie center in Zach Frazier. They got a rookie right guard in Mason McCormick, 6th-round pick. And they look like Steelers. You know, like certain guys. I remember when Minka Fitzpatrick got traded from the Dolphins to the Steelers. And I said, I don't know what it is, Minka, but you just look a whole lot more like a Steeler than you do a Dolphin. And it's just, there's certain guys that just look like Steelers. And they know what a linebacker looks like. You know, Alex Highsmith, Nick Herbig, Preston Smith, TJ, they know what linebackers look like. They just got this culture. And Tomlin just feeds it every day. And the fans, I'm sure they're waving terrible towels at Acrisure Stadium right now. This is going to be some kind of contest. Lamar has to play, I think, at the highest MVP level, which he certainly is capable.
He's doing it. Yeah.
And he's doing it. Like, it's going to be – and this – I almost wish all these games we could just take them to January and put them on, a playoff atmosphere, because that's what it's going to be.
All right, let's talk about Thursday night. I said I had a few games that I think are big. Commanders, Eagles. This is also, Eagles 3.5-point favorite as we speak. All right. The Commanders felt like they got a first down, and we're talking about the Steelers. The review showed it played out.
It wasn't a first down.
And the point is, you think that Jalen is going to, Jaden Daniels is going to lead them down and to a winning field goal. Guys, that was a great game. Commanders are for real, right? They look the part. And here are the Eagles coming off of a big blowout win against the Cowboys. This is a big spot. Both teams, 7-2 Eagles, 7-3 Commanders. Jason, what are you looking at here? Because I like the Commanders in this spot right here.
I took Eagles money line when it opened at 2.5. It's a short week. I do think this is kind of new territory for Washington. Baldy, what happened to Jaden Daniels' legs? Like, if that's something that has been sort of like, if they're playing the long game with him, I totally get it after the rib injury. But I think if they don't have that element, if he's not that, if that right side 40 yards down the sideline isn't open for business outside the pocket, I think it makes life a little more difficult for them. I'm starting to buy the Eagles defense a little bit more. When they first started turning around, I was a skeptic. Who are they playing? What are they doing? Right? Are they buying into this guy for real? Does Vic have their ear? Are they going to hold their ear because they kind of tuned people out last year? But like, I'm starting to buy it. And I think Washington's difficulties stopping the run are going to be a problem here. And I think it's Jalen. I love Jalen Hurts props in this game. The guy's got 6 rushing touchdowns the last 3 weeks. Like, he's the finisher. He's the tempo setter. I think he's going to run the ball. It's at 9.5. I think he's running the ball 13, 14 times. Their last 5 home games, he's running the ball 13 times a game. Like, I think his legs will be a factor. I think he will help them convert on 3rd and 4th down. And I think they can score one more point at home in a short week against Washington than they surrender. But I think it's going to be a hell of a football game. If you tell me Jaden Daniels went off and emasculated these guys, I'm not going to sit here and say I think that's crazy. But I'm on the Eagles.
Baldy, real quick, the offense for the Commanders, they are 4th in rushing, right, in the league. I'm looking at this. Mm-hmm. They're running the ball. Guys, they're 3rd in the league in scoring. They're scoring 29 a game. Mm-hmm. Like, they're putting up points. But I do agree with you, Jason, about stopping the run. Baldy, how do you see that up front with both of these teams?
Well, look, I still think Saquon can win the rushing title. He's got to have a better week than he had last week. But, he's never seen an offensive line like this. I mean, Mekhi Becton is fit right into that culture. They've got the 2 biggest guards in the league, Landon Dickerson and Mekhi. They're great run blockers, the 2 of them. But they're playing great up front. I haven't seen – this is the best Lane Johnson has ever played. This is who they are. They got Dallas Goedert back. He's a good blocker. In Washington, look, I don't know if Marshawn Lattimore is going, but They went after St. Juice for the game winner last week. There's, A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith out there. They're going to have their hands full in the back end, and they can protect up front against Joe Witt Jr.'s blitzes and pressures that he needs in order to get guys free. I think, the Eagles have drafted very well. They found Zach Bond. They got kind of lucky. Really didn't play in New Orleans. I think he leads the league in tackles right now. They figured out that position, N'Kobe Dean and Zach Bond. The rookie right corner is ridiculous. Like, he doesn't get beat. And Cooper DeJean is they could not figure out. They had 5 different guys play the slot corner last year. They all stunk. And they picked him up off the street. Cooper DeJean has fixed that position. He's a great tackler. He's making huge plays every week. He's exactly what they thought he was going to be. And they got a position for him. They look like, I know they're beating up on a lot of bad teams, and the coach gets in the way sometimes against New Orleans and Cleveland and Jacksonville. He gets in the way sometimes. I mean, I think Philadelphia's just better in the trenches than Washington right now.
All right, let's shift gears. A couple more games, guys. It's in the Huddle. Follow us, like us, subscribe, watch us in the Huddle Pod. That's on YouTube. Each and every week we put out a couple of different episodes, guys, and you can stay up on what's going on. We talked about Kansas City earlier. Let's talk about this game, 4 o'clock window Sunday. Chiefs at Buffalo. Buffalo's a 2.5-point favorite. Listen, Buffalo's also finding ways to win, right? I mean, we talk about the Chiefs, but the Buffalo Bills are also finding ways to pull these games out. And you said it, Jason. I think you said it earlier. They'll lose. Kansas City will lose one of these games, or Baldy said it, during the year. Is this one of those games? Is this the one for the Chiefs?
Not for me. I think they lose to a divisional team with a great defense after they've probably locked everything up, right? And it's Jim Harbaugh's Super Bowl or it's Sean Payton's Super Bowl, but it's just another low-scoring, tight game for the Chiefs. But I don't think they lose. I don't think a team that hasn't lost since Christmas loses this one. I think they're up for this one. I think they're sending a message to Buffalo for the playoffs for this one. They win this one, they can rest on their laurels the rest of the way. Patrick Mahomes as an underdog.
What? When is he ever an underdog?
Patrick Mahomes as an underdog, folks. 11-1-1 against the spread. He covers those games by a touchdown and a 2-point conversion. His cover margin is 8 points per game. He is 10-3 straight up in 13 games as an underdog. He has won and covered his last 5 games as an underdog. Superior special teams, superior defense, and the Bills can't really stop the run. And Kareem Hunt got the week off. He only ran the ball 14 times last week. He got the week off. Hey, Kareem, buckle up. You're running 30 times this week. I don't care if you win this game 7-6, right? Like, I just think there'll be volume in the run game. Nobody's talking about Kelsey anymore now that he's catching 14 balls a week, right? Like, remember when Kelsey was done in week 5? Like, do you remember that? I'm old enough to remember that. Like, he's kind of unstoppable. They don't beat themselves. They've got a great kicker. I know the Bills kicker is doing well now too, but like, I can't pick the Bills to lose this game, and I'm waiting for it to get. It's at 2.5, not 1.5. It's going to get to 3, and then I'm going to take the Kansas City money line when it gets to 3, and I can get it around plus 125 or plus 130. It's around plus 112 right now, but that's where I am, Baldy. Like, I don't think this is where the Chiefs lose. I don't think this is it.
Well, I'm going to have to disagree here. There is a hidden weakness to this Chiefs 9-0 team. Their 2 tackles are very average to below average. And Von Miller is just waiting for these games. He's just waiting. And Rousseau's playing great. I think off the edge, Buffalo's got an advantage right there. It is true about Kelsey. He's got 40 targets in the last 3 games. 40. Nobody is targeted like that. And he's got 28 catches and 2 touchdowns. The offense is going through him. No question about it. I mean, the Buffalo, Taron Johnson intercepts Joe Flacco on the first play last week. The Colts are up 7-0. They've got playmakers everywhere. I think Josh Allen understands the magnitude of this game, even though it's mid-November. I like the Bills in this game. Man, they could play this game in the parking lot, the home field, all that. The Chiefs are used to all that stuff. That's no big deal. But I do think that Buffalo can attack Kansas City in places like Denver did last week to keep the score down. I mean, Mahomes got sacked and hurried, and he's good in those situations. Nothing seems to ever bother him. But I think this is where you could make some mistakes against this Bills team.
All right.
You thinking under, Baldy? Because this is around 46, and I'm hoping it gets bet up to 47-ish, 47.5. I want to go under, but I feel like I can get a better number moving forward. But this isn't any higher than 23-20, is it? Or is this any higher than 24-21, right? 24-21, maybe.
I think it's played, in the low 20s,
Yeah.
like that. It probably comes down to whoever has it last to go kick the game-winning field goal.
Yep.
That's what it feels like to me. It feels like a 3-point game, and that's where it's at. But that's what it feels like, and I don't think any of the team is going to run away with it. It won't even surprise me if both quarterbacks lead their teams in rushing in this game, just from quarterback scrambles alone.
All right, let's talk about the Bengals. I still have hope. I still think they've got a shot to do something here. And here the Bengals are, 8:00 window, Sunday Night Football, Chargers. Fellas, I mean, Joe Burrow's been unbelievable, even though they're still losing these games. Baldy?
What's going up, I mean, on paper right now, well, in any stat, I mean, the Chargers are the number one defense in football. They just don't give up touchdowns. Yep. And if you look at, the one game where Joe didn't look invincible was when he came to Philly a couple weeks ago and they put up 17 points. Like, he's going to see a defense now that tackles well. They've got all kinds of pass rushers. I think the Bengals have problems at the left tackle spot. I don't know if Zeus is back or not, regardless. Khalil Mack's out there. Bosa's healthy. Tui Pelotu. Like, they have completely bought in to the Harbaugh way of doing business. They tackle well. They don't give up big plays. They don't beat themselves. The quarterback doesn't turn it over. Like, the Chargers look like they are going to be a tough team to beat by anybody. And this looks like a tough spot for Cincinnati for me.
I think Jim Harbaugh, they're one of the best stories in the NFL. He's one of the more sort of iconic's too strong of a word, but he has a brand, right? Not every coach has a brand. That brand is strong. It sells.
Parcells.
Yes, it's compelling. And Baldy, we're 11 games into this thing. Have they been on national television?
Nobody talks about it.
They're completely under.
And he loves it.
He loves it. But their losses are okay. They lost on the road to Arizona in a week where they dominated them, but settled for field goals and not touchdowns. They lost a 1-score game to Andy Reid at the very end, and they lost at Pittsburgh very early in his sort of tenure. That's it. So and nobody's talking about them, and nobody even knows who they are. Go watch Justin Herbert the last 5 weeks. The idea that he's just handing the ball off, that was September. That's not what they're doing now.
Quentin Johnson, Ladd McConkey, he's getting the ball down the field. Josh Palmer, these guys are.
Greg Roman and the run scheme, he knows the Bengals defense inside out. He'll have the Gus Bus and J.K. Dobbins prepared to attack that defense. And the Chargers, this isn't the Ravens who have no pass rush. And we saw what the Ravens did to Burrow last week. Now he's getting Bosa and these guys.
Tough spot.
Chargers are a good football team, and Chargers will remain a good football team, and they're a playoff team. It's a tough spot to me for the Bengals. I don't know if the Bengals can win this game in the trenches.
That's the Sunday night game. Before we get out of here, San Francisco gets McCaffrey back. They didn't run him like they normally would, obviously.
He didn't look like Christian McCaffrey to me, Baldy. I don't know about you.
But okay.
So you're at home Sunday against Seattle in the 4:00 window. This is why I just want to bring this up. Is this the point where they take off, guys? Are they going to make a run here like they did last season, Baldy, winning all those games and going on a nice run now that McCaffrey's back? I was not impressed with what I saw last week either. That's why I'm bringing it up.
Well, I mean, he had 19 touches for 107 yards. He had a couple runs, 6 and 7 yard run. He had a lot of 1 yard runs.
Right.
He didn't look special. I mean, Jordan Mason all year long looked better. Yeah. Now, okay, Bucks played a good game. This special teams debacle that the 49ers do every week. Every week, they do something to blow themselves up. And they keep, like, forget about the missed field goals. Missed field goals are missed field goals. But, like you muff that punt, let the Bucs right back in the game. It happens in 7 of their 9 games this year. Like, it's not going away. And I don't know if they're good enough defensively to overcome it right now. Because they're not a great defense.
Middling.
You know, Bosa's playing good, but, like, they're not a dominant defensive front. You can run it against them. You can protect against them. Baker wasn't under siege. You know, I mean, I think they're very vulnerable right now.
All right, fellas. It's a great week. It's going to be some really good football.
We're lucky.
We're getting into that part of the season, right? We said it, guys. Teams are going to separate, and we're going to see who's legit. Make sure you're here next week, guys. We'll be breaking down all the games,
no doubt,
giving you the look at everything that's going on around the NFL. We do it each and every week. Brian Baldinger, follow him. Baldy's Breakdowns.
Please.
Jason Lock4. Check him out. Carl Dukes, follow us, and we appreciate you guys being here. We'll talk to you next week. It's all about ball on this podcast. Hey, fellas, have a great day, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep.